Oh, Nelly. Oh, Nelly. Welcome to Froggy Stonks. My camera's out of position. Nothing I say is financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. Not a financial advisor. We are getting ready to host a Twitter space call specifically talking about DRS. And the reason I want to talk about this now instead of 6 months ago is because AMC has officially put out DRS numbers on how many are registered, and I think it's for a reason. Right now is the time to do it. It's a very simple process that we're going to talk about as soon as I start the space call and get everybody loaded up in the room. So if you could just be patient with me for a few minutes while we get everybody going here. It's super important because there's over, I think, 11,576 DRS members currently. So I'll bring it up while we're waiting for everybody to join. It's really important right now too because the share price is so low that people are buying it up like crazy. What's going on, everyone? What's going on? We're going to wait for the room to load up. If you could, please tweet out the call. It's going to be a very controlled, productive call today, but feel free to come up and speak. But I'd like to stay on topic. Waiting for my crew to roll in. Jen, the co-host, and I think Swing Trader will be here. He's the local DRS expert. And some of you are probably wondering, why the hell is Spence talking about DRS now instead of 6 months ago? We've talked about it for a while, but I've never pushed it hard because I didn't think it was the right time. Now that Adam Aaron, AMC Theaters have put out direct information on DRS shares into public, the stock's at under $10 or $10 floating around, and we're right on the same time frame as our big run up last year. It's a really simple thing for everybody to jump in and DRS shares a little bit. You don't even need to do it all. Let me try to get my crew up in here and we will start on the topic. If they're coming, I don't know. They might have just told me to go F myself. Not sure. Okay. But everything sure is looking pretty nasty for next week and the week after that. Last year on May 24th was the start of our big 72 run that lasted 13 days. And at that same time, Bitcoin took a total dump. So I'm telling you, they're pushing it to the limit. Everybody that just joined, if you could, please tweet out the call. I would very much appreciate it. See if we can get the crew in here. They are behind today. I guess we can go over the information twice just so nobody gets bored. So, AMC put out information on how many people had DRS their shared, which was like, I think it was around like 11,516, something like that. Then we all saw the emails from Merriweather about how basically the float was owned. The 516.8 million shares of AMC outstanding were owned. Now, it's really interesting to note that institutions own 188,232,641 as of today. So this is the plan. This is a very simple thing to do for everyone. One, to DRS your shares, just call your broker and say, I would like to DRS my shares with computer share, right? But you don't have to do them all. I'm only going to do another 100 for a total of 2, right? But I have bumped into people today that said they've done over 10,000 shares. Do what you're comfortable with. But just understand, if you DRS your shares, it's a longer process to sell those shares when we squeeze. That's why we only need to do a minimal amount. So here's the math I got. We know there is 4 million AMC shareholders for sure. Adam Aaron has repeated it multiple times. There's 516,820,592 shares of AMC outstanding. If 4 million shareholders all DRS 100 shares apiece, that's 400 million shares. The shares outstanding versus that DRS that we just did would leave between 516.8 million and 400 million. It would leave a difference of 116.8 million shares. That is all that would be available for institutions to own. So now that we know institutions have reported 188.2 million, we take the shares left over after the DRS minus outstanding, and we would have a negative balance of 71.4 million shares that would have to be synthetic. It's that simple. The only reason I'm talking about it now is because it's the perfect time for everyone to do it. 50 to 100 shares. I don't care if you, I think it might have to be in 100. I'm not sure. But register 10 if that's all you can do. Leave yourself, I think me and Swing talked about maybe a 20%. Do 20% of your shares, right? If everybody does this, I don't even think we need all 4 million people to do it. I think we would probably only need 1 million retail AMC investors to DRS 100 shares to 500 shares to prove that there are a multitude of synthetics out on the open market. It's super simple to do. All you have to do is call your broker, say, I would like to DRS 100 shares. If you're with Fidelity, all you have to have is make sure all your purchases are cleared and settled. I got somebody text me today that said, well, I tried to do it on Webull and they wanted to charge me $117. If that's true, that sucks. That's why we were telling everybody, get away from Webull, get away from Robinhood, get to a non-PFOF broker, and make sure you can do this.
How much does it cost DRSing shares through Fidelity?
They told me it cost absolutely nothing.
Really? And how long does that transfer take?
3 days.
2 weeks?
3 days. 3 trading days.
Okay.
So this is the thing, man. If everybody goes out of this room and goes across the community, and people are going to come up and go, Citadel owns part of computer share. Citadel owns part of fucking everything, you guys. Stop being stupid. You're playing in a market right now that Citadel owns completely. So them owning part of computer share is not going to make a difference. Computer share has to report the official data no matter what. So if we do this, if everybody leaves and goes out and just says, hey, we're going to do 20% DRS across the board, all of retail, as a individual choice for the greater good of the whole, to prove that we own more than the float, we can get this done in under 2 weeks. And then by the next, I'm not even sure if it would be earnings or the annual first, Adam Aaron could come out and go, okay, so you all DRS'd your shares and we're maxed out. So how do institutions own 188 million shares? We'll blow this thing wide open, you guys. What's up, Malcolm?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. Make sure to check your broker, especially for all other international investors like me. I'm in Canada. Check with your broker whether you even need to DRS necessarily. My particular broker doesn't engage in share lending, so. And I know for some brokers it's optional. It's an opt-in program. And because there's no dark pools in Canada or Europe or anything, if you're using a broker and you don't allow share lending, I think that's probably as good as DRSing, because due to international laws, it has to be, recorded under your name. And I've checked my broker. All my shares are segregated from the rest of the pool. So, absolutely check your broker on that kind of stuff, and because the fees for DRSing, depending on your broker, can be huge.
Yeah.
In Canada, it can be $250+, which is nuts. But it's not as necessary in some places, I believe. Not an expert.
Well, yeah, Spence was saying Webull. Somebody was saying it was over $200.
Well, and Swing
which is
Trade
crazy.
probably has a cure for that, Jen. He was telling me earlier that you can actually buy shares directly from or through computer share. So if he wants to come up and explain that.
Hey, Swing.
Yeah, I'm only heard part of that. What would you want me to explain?
I think you were talking to me earlier about if your broker's gonna charge you to DRS your shares, can you buy shares directly through computer share?
You can. You don't have the same amount of flexibility as you do with your broker far as doing limit buys. You limit sales and all that when you go to sell your shares. You do have that flexibility, but on the buy side, they do bulk buy orders once or twice a day, depending on the security, and put those orders in. So you may end up with odd lot number of shares. You spend them $500 and say buy, it's going to be whatever that $500 buys you. You do pay for that. I want to say it's 25. Like the initial, there's your initial buy-in the very first time you buy with your share. There's a separate fee, and then there's a per transaction fee. But that's because they're not loaning out your shares. They're not they're not involved in any of the tomfoolery. They don't get to do what our brokers do, whereas we put in our buy order at this price, and then they have T+2 to make it right. Everything is through shares, and the shares are in your name. But you actually own it. Like when it comes time to vote, with both AMC and GME, I received the very day that the proxy statement dropped to the SEC. I received an email from ComputerShare saying, "Hey, vote your shares." Schwab took days, and I actually had to call Schwab to get one of my accounts. I never got my proxy, and had to call them today and follow up with them. They did end up getting that to me. So I have voted all my shares in both securities, but yeah, I mean that's basically it. You have to, it does take some time to do it. The very first time that you set up your account with ComputerShare, it's not fast. But it's once you have that relationship set up, it's faster in the future times. And then you know that your shares are real. You know that they're actually in your name, and that there's really no tomfoolery that can be done by the brokers, market makers, etc. Those are your shares. They're no longer in the DTCC.
Well, I have a question, Swing and Spence. Can't you just turn off your share lending, right, with their brokerage?
That yes, that's important. I don't want to diminish that. Share lending, turning off share lending is step one. However, there is net settlement that brokers get to do with the DTCC, and basically there's share lending that goes on beyond, even if you have it in a cash account, it is not 100% bulletproof. I mean, as an example, while it is a different industry, it's been going around how Coinbase, shared that if they go bankrupt, your tokens that you have with them might be subject to the bankruptcy, and be part of the bankruptcy, even if they're in your account.
Here's the important.
So similar type of thing. If whatever brokerage you're in went under, those shares are not in your name; they're in their broker's name, and you're written underneath your broker. So the only way to guarantee that is through the direct registration with the company.
Here's the important part. AMC is actively tracking who's DRSing. We know that. They have a share count every single meeting. They have a book at the meeting that says who owns what shares, right? If we make a movement now at this stock price, at this moment in time, for the next, say, month, to get people, whoever can do it at an affordable cost, to DRS shares, it's going to shock the market. Because when they see, we say we go from, say, 11,000 people who have DRS'd a certain number of shares up to 50,000 people who DRS their shares, at least 100, it's going to show enough data points to calculate out that we're over the float. My goal would be for every single shareholder to DRS 100 shares. That would be my personal goal, but we'll never reach that because there's 4 million people. But if everybody leaves this room and says, yes, we've talked about DRS before, but let me explain. AMC is putting out direct data in their reports to their investors about what shares are DRS'd. They keep dropping the number of retail investors we have. They keep saying we own the float, basically. Right now is the perfect time to show up, make a little bit of a sacrifice, and go DRS 50 to 100 shares, whatever you can. I don't care if you DRS. I don't know if there's a limit on where you need to have a minimum of 10 or what. But if everybody just does it, and we can show an increase in value in the number of people who have DRS'd and the number of shares DRS'd, they can use that to prove that we are way, way over the float. And I think that's part of what Adam Aaron wants. I really do. Because they didn't really put out a lot of data about DRS in the past. What's up, Duckin?
Hey, what's going on? So I've bought on ComputerShare before. So there's a couple things. First of all, if you need information, if you go to Reddit on Superstock, they've got all the directions there on what to do. But you want to make sure you're in book holdings, not plan. And what happens is if you end up with an odd number, like a fractional share, say 25.47, it ends up in plan. So you have to switch it to book. Okay. If it's in plan, supposedly the DTCC is still holding it. And then what they'll do, ComputerShare will try to sell that fractional share for you, but you can go out and cancel that. So then you'll still have that fractional share. It'll be in plan holdings, but you'll have it in your account.
Now, when you actually DRS your shares from your broker, is there anything like that we should be looking for?
No, I did it from Wells Fargo.
Okay.
It was pretty simple. It probably took maybe a week to 10 days. But I do know that some charge. I know Webull was charging. I don't think Fidelity does. Wells Fargo doesn't. But you just want to make sure you're in book holdings when you get it over there. But Superstock has all the information.
Right on. Yeah, there's multiple links on this. I'll start trying to pick some up and tweeting them tomorrow. Real quick, too, if you guys can share the call so we can try to get maximum engagement on this. I'll tell you, a lot of people like Swing and a few others have been pushing DRS for a long time, and the community's kind of been on the edge about it. But at this point in time, just like with some people attacking me about my no options May and whatnot, do you want to keep doing the same thing for another year that took us from 70 down to 10? Or do you want to blow these guys out of the effing water in the next month? Because I'll tell you right now, these hedge funds and these market makers are hurting today. They are struggling, man. Next week is going to be brutal for them.
Hey, Spence, and to confirm kind of what Duckinator was saying, yes, Fidelity does not charge you for DRSing your shares. I know I've transferred 243 of my AMC shares over to ComputerShare like way long ago when we first started bringing that up. And then I also have I think something like 50 shares of GameStop over in DRS with ComputerShare as well.
Nice.
So yeah, it's and I'm going to transfer some more today. So I've been waiting on that for a while. I think it's time to move more over that way. If people are able to move more over and are comfortable with it, right? I'm not saying you should or that you have to, but if you're comfortable with it and you want to move more shares over, I've been trying to keep essentially a 4-to-1 or, you know, if you're talking about composite or essentially 20%, 20 to 25% of my holdings over there.
Yeah.
And so I need to balance those out now. But the more people who are able to do more than 100 shares, like if you're able to do 200 and we can get, you know, 2 million of the retail investors to do that,
Yep.
then like it starts to bring that number down. So the more you have over there, like, you know, I'm already over 100. I'm at over 200. That means that like if there was another million of me, then we've now reduced the number of people who have to put 100 shares in significantly, and gives the liquidity to people in their accounts to be able to trade. So think about that, right? That's my pitch for it. I've been on the pro side of this since, you know, the GME community started talking about DRS, because I used Computer Share over a decade ago. I have no reason not to trust them at this point, because I held a lot of shares of Exxon with them for many years.
It's really simple, you guys. It's so simple. And if you're in another broker like Webull that's charging you to DRS your shares, I recommend this. If you're scared to transfer, just go open a new Fidelity account, put some money in it, buy your shares, and then DRS. That way you actually have an extra broker open too in case this thing does pop off and squeeze. You have multiple brokers to balance your portfolio between in case one of them shuts down. But if people, you know, when people DM me and they're like, I'm still in Webull, I'm still in Robinhood, it makes me want to rip my freaking eyeballs out. That is I don't even want to say it because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings again. But you guys, man, Robinhood is the crime, the criminal, the getaway car. Webull's no better. Get into an account that's non-PFOF, get into Fidelity, buy whatever shares you can in Fidelity, direct routed to the IEX, and then after they've cleared, put what you can DRS, and let's blow this thing up, man. I want Adam Aaron on the next earnings call to go, oh, we had a 200% increase in DRS shares compared to last quarter, and it's showing we're logged over the float. So we have a problem. I want him to be able to legally freaking say that. And if the DRS shows we're over the float, they can take so many more legal actions than they can right now. But they can't come out and tell us to DRS our shares.
Well, it goes even beyond that, in that once it gets anywhere remotely close, I mean, because the Computer Share works directly with AMC, and this works for any company that they work with, AMC has direct visibility into those books. That's why if you have DRS your shares, you can go to the shareholder meeting and just show your ID. If you haven't DRS your shares, you have a little bit more hoops to jump through, because you have to be able to prove that you own AMC. AMC knows who you are and that you own shares if you are direct registered. And so once those numbers do go up, I mean, I have to imagine once it got to some sort of critical threshold point, like if it was 80%, 90%, whatever that was, I'm sure Computer Share and their company would be on the phone and be like, hey, we have almost all your shares registered now, and there's a lot seem to be trading on the NASDAQ or the NYSE, so you should probably know about this. You know, I mean, that's going to be something that happens at some point. So
if we hit 300 plus million shares registered, it would blow everything up, because if institutions own 188.2 million and we DRS 300 million, that's 488 million just right there, right? We don't need to DRS. I think what would happen if everybody ended up doing this, we would DRS the entire float. No freaking problem. No questions asked. 100 shares here, 200 shares there. This guy tweeted today. I mean, he's like, man, I DRS like 15,000 shares. So you're going to have that differential in between. I'm going to end up with 200. I was going to do it today, but I've got to do my next 100 tomorrow because one of my trades wasn't cleared. You know, if everybody just jumps in on this, it's so easy for you to leave this room and just go spread hey, just DRS 100 shares. Well, I don't know how to do it. Just open your Fidelity or open a Fidelity account, buy some shares and DRS them, whether it's 5 shares or 100 shares. If you're opening a new Fidelity account and you're only buying a share or two a day or whatever, then use that account specifically for DRSing and keep your main position on Webull if you want, whatever. We can blow this out of the water in the next month.
Hey, Spence, a couple other things. One, if you're doing it out of an IRA or a Roth IRA, you have to be careful because there's going to be tax consequences. Mm-hmm. You can't just transfer an IRA over to them if shares are held in there.
Yeah, there was somebody who was talking about, like, there used to be a way to do it, and then I think they changed it, and now it seems like there's a new process where you can do it, and you have to go through like a trust or something, and a certain trust, whoever is responsible, I guess, for the IRA, has to be the one who maintains the ownership or the control, I guess, technically, of the account on the computer share side. But as I understand it, from what I briefly read on Reddit a night or two ago, there does seem to be a way to do it from your IRA without having a tax implication.
Okay. That's just so everyone knows to look into that first, just to make sure.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody, if that's something that you're thinking about, or you have a large position in your IRA, like, go do your research, go dig through that, and then go talk to, a tax professional to double validate, right? And if you pay for services, or if you've had to use services like H&R Block or the like for getting your taxes done, you should, in most cases, also have the availability to use their tax advice service as well. It usually depends, but they usually have some sort of a service to provide to you for that. So that might be a way to validate that you are in fact doing your taxes correctly, or that you're dealing with the IRA correctly, so you don't get penalized for that hard if you were to go and do that. So just make sure you do your research and you talk to the people who are licensed professionals, and don't just take what's on Reddit for being correct or whatever. Make sure you take it with a grain of salt, and check with tax professionals and or lawyers if you have the access to them, so that you're not hit with a big tax bill next year.
The issue with the DRS movement, in my opinion, is it was shotgunned out into the community at a really early stage when people hadn't been educated on it yet, and people were pushing it in a really aggressive manner. Now people have had time to absorb it. They've absorbed the failure of whatever we've been doing for a year, but we're right at the perfect time frame where we broke out last May at this same time. Everything's looking like it's lining up the same. If people jump in now and say, I'm going to do something different, I'm going to make a little sacrifice and do something a little different and just DRS 50 to 100 shares just to understand the process and give Adam Aaron more ammunition to put into the quarterly statements or the annual statement, we can make a huge difference. No Options May trended across 2 different platforms, and it's been working. We've talked about the price going down for the past 2 weeks based on the highest open interest on the lowest strike, and look what they did today. This week, they had over 16,000 puts on the $10 strike, and within a day, they flipped half of that over to the $11 strike. And then they slammed us today because there's like no call options open on those strikes. So right now, the only thing market makers are trying to do is save their own asses because there's no premiums to steal. It's absolutely incredible what's happening right now. And also to note, the SEC, when they dropped the first 2 weeks of April failure to delivers, didn't put AMC in the data. Fintel has still not updated the AMC failure to delivers, but a news outlet, I think, what was it I tweeted? I forgot what it was. The Street, right? They said the first 2 weeks of April, there were 2.8 million failure to delivers on AMC. There is a big, big bomb getting ready to be set off on this thing. And if people jump in and DRS a few shares to make a difference in the data that Adam Aaron is receiving on the board, to know, not even to know, they already know, but to have the proper ammunition to legally go after this, we can blow this whole thing out of the water. So that's just my opinion on it, you guys. I think we can all get behind something like this.
Yeah, just be prepared. Like you said, there's going to be a huge pushback from the AMC community.
Well,
but like you said, now we're smarter. And I think if you're responding to people, just don't be aggressive with them. Just try to explain how it helps.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the main point. Well, Citadel owns computer share. It's the same old shit. And I think it's actually bad actors spreading FUD. They don't want this to happen.
Sure.
Your shares are diluted by Citadel right now. Sitting in your brokerage, whether it's payment for order flow or not, your shares are diluted by Citadel from them producing naked shorts and synthetic shares. That's why we're down to $10 a share price. So you're already playing in their game, you guys. But Computer Share has a right and a duty and a legal obligation to produce the proper numbers to AMC board of directors. They have to do it. That way AMC can come out and go, we have more shares direct registered than our entire float, and they can take legal action and force the DTCC into a no faith of share management. It'll cause a massive recall.
Well, it's not even that. Like, once they got to the float, hypothetically, and there's videos with that Superstock did on YouTube with, I think his name was Paul Kahn, as their chief. He's in the C-suite. I don't want to say the wrong thing. If he's chief strategy officer or chief operations officer, or what his position is with Computer Share, but he said that they hadn't really faced this while that he was aware, but hypothetically, once they have reached the float, they would have to turn away any attempts to DRS, because those are all the shares. There aren't any more shares to be direct registered, because there's only a certain amount that have been issued and are tradable, and that is it. So I think it's as hard as Superstock has tried to get everyone to DRS and where they're at. And mind you, they've done an amazing job. I think the latest filing in this was last quarter, so this would have been as of January 1st. They have 9 million shares or so direct registered, which, for a company with 74 million, I want to say, or I can't remember what the exact tradable float is of GME. That's a sizable chunk. That's a huge chunk of the company that has been direct registered with the company, and that's something like 150,000 people. And suppose we have these messages from Adam Aaron about there being 4 million people owning AMC. So it also at least makes you think about the fact of how also big is the GME community too, because if 150,000 people are direct registered, that's only 1 out of 10, or something like that. Not everyone's going to do that. So anyway, it will expose. It's basically it's the way to show Wall Street crime. If everyone just bought shares through direct registration, we reference look up Dr. Susan Turnback, Naked Short and Greedy. I've read that. It's now available on Audible too, and it's available through her website. And kind of goes into the back office stuff where she worked in clearing and settlement, and she I think is largely ahead for retail getting to be aware of direct registration. At least that's who I would give credit to. I don't know if anybody else has other thoughts on who led that way, but I mean, she actually worked with the DTC. Her job was to clear settlement fails. She knew how these trade settlements worked and how the entire system worked and how, and she goes into detail on the contract that, you know, the tickers that have the largest dollar amount of failed to delivers, those are the hot priority ones. So you have to do the share price times the number of fails. So they're actually motivated to drive the price down further because that actually moves it down the priority list. So it's actually, that's partially why they do that, is that they just keep on shorting to drive that price down even further. So then it gets knocked down on the priority list of the DTC, and they don't consider that a priority. the whole system. But you know, once you pull those shares out of the DTC and they don't have access to them and they can't share lending with those shares, that goes kind of back to Jen, your question. I don't know if that's
Hey guys,
answer on that.
I just got a DM from somebody. His name is The Bull, and he says he has found no solid info how to DRS his holding here in the UK. He says appreciate any help any of you can find. Someone asked them to get that info for them.
There's a guide.
Oh.
There's a guide on that for UK in Reddit in Superstonk. It's there. I think in most cases a lot of people are doing it through interactive brokers, but interactive brokers can do it. Some trading platforms in the UK won't support it, like they won't let you DRS. But there are brokers in the UK that will let you DRS to computer share. And there's a guide on it in Superstonk. I don't remember exactly where it is, but there is definitely a guide on it in Superstonk in Reddit. You just have to go find it.
I think it's pinned to the top.
Yeah,
I believe it is
to the top, and I think they have it also set up so that basically every single post in Superstock, there's like an auto-responder bot thing where it actually has a link to the master list of DRS information. So you basically can't avoid the information. if you're on Reddit on Superstock, you'll find it.
So, as of the proxy statement from AMC, there was 10,498 registered holders with computer share. That is so small compared to what we are. That to me, and I'll say it, it's just a complete lack of effort for retail investors to do anything to actually win this. And people complain all day about the price action, and they complain all day about how unfair the market is, but they can't make a simple phone call to register a few shares. It's so simple, you guys. Even if however many people in this room go out and register 50, 100 shares in the next 3 days, that is going to make a huge impact in the weeks to come. Because the next quarter, the next whatever it is, when they come out with now we have 15,498 people direct registered. It's data we can use in the thesis that we've been working on since last year about 500 shares average per shareholder. If we get anywhere near to the threshold of 60% of total AMC retail shareholders DRS'd, we can probably blow this thing out of the water. And if there's going to be any lawsuits at any point in time going forward, this information will be like a golden bullet. So I'm telling you guys, man, the options chain thing is definitely working. I see some really funky stuff going on with no options May. The daily options flip on strike prices via open interest on puts and calls is crazy. I couldn't believe how much I saw change just between Monday and today. But this DRS thing, all it takes is you going out, hey, we got a movement going. We need to come up with a good hashtag for it. DRS, the AMC, DRS, the float, or whatever. Put a little blurb below it. You know, everybody's trying to DRS 100 shares if you can. Remember to tell them if Weeble's going to charge you, just open a Fidelity account and buy some shares in there to DRS and just do your part, man. Do what you can. We can blow this thing up. What's up, OmniLaw?
Hey, I'm sorry I missed some of that. I apologize. I have E-Trade and I have Fidelity. I know you probably went over a list of them, but I could buy some this week and DRS them. But what do you use to DRS your shares?
Fidelity. I tried to do
Fidelity does it?
Yeah, for free. Too.
Yes, Fidelity does it for free. That's what I was just saying like 5 minutes ago.
Or I'm sorry, I missed that. So that all I have to do is buy them in Fidelity and I'm good to go. All right.
Well,
and then just post that I registered them.
No, you buy in Fidelity, and then you have to call up Fidelity and say that you want to DRS or that you want to direct register your shares. And then they will probably go, this is for AMC or GameStop, isn't it? Because they've had so many of those requests that they just know what's going on. And usually when I do it, because I've done it in phases, I just call them up and I say, hey, I want to put the most recent X number of shares into DRS, because you don't want to just tell them to put X number of shares, because then that ends up with like your oldest shares sometimes getting kicked over, which then messes with your, it'll mess with your cost basis, but it's going to do that anyway. But it'll also mess up your like time duration on your positions. So like some of your positions may not be considered long hold. Therefore, like if it pops next week and it's still short, then you'd get taxed at, short-term cap gains, which is at your income level. So if you're making, like we'll throw out a just random scenario here. If you made like $2 million selling your shares. And this is, again, I'm not saying there's a price or anything like that. I'm just saying $2 million is the number I pulled out of my ass. If you make $2 million, then you'd get taxed at 40%, which is the highest tax bracket, if those were shares that were held short. If they're like, when I say short, I mean in duration, i.e. short-term capital gains. So if you're making over $400,000 a year, you hit that 40% tax bracket, you're going to have to pay 40% in taxes. But if you've held them for more than a year, the current laws regarding long-term cap gains is that you would pay 20%. So you want to keep your long holds more liquid, and you want to put your short holds over into DRS, because that's going to be more difficult in terms of timing and, selling those off because of how they interact with a broker on the other end if you decide to sell shares. So I put the stuff in there that I'm not going to ever touch again, like the stuff I'm keeping forever. That's the stuff I put over in DRS.
Real quick, guys, I just had like 20 or 15 people jump on the YouTube all of a sudden. I want to go over the basic thesis again in the plan here. DRS in the past has been kind of shotgunned over the community in a way that wasn't really focused on getting people to understand it more and work together. The people who did a phenomenal job, but the community just wasn't ready for it, in my opinion, yet. The reason we're bringing this back up now is because they put out direct registered information in the proxy statement, which I have up on my screen. And they said there's 10,498 registered retail AMC shareholders at this point. The theory is if all 4 million AMC retail investors DRS'd 100 shares, that would bring 400 million shares registered under that program. We already know, according to the Word document that I also have up on the screen, that institutions per reporting agencies own 188.23 million shares. So if we DRS'd 400 million shares minus 400 million shares DRS'd minus the shares outstanding, that only leaves 116.8 million. The difference between that and the institutional shares is 71.4 million in the negative. So we would be proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are synthetic shares out in the market that need to be bought back up by the short sellers. When we bust them and we prove this, the AMC board of directors can take massive legal action due to this data. It's 100% proof that the AMC company and its shareholders are being diluted by nefarious actors, i.e. the market makers, hedge funds, and banks. It's a really simple thing to do for everybody listening. If you have Fidelity, all you need to do is call and tell them you want to DRS some shares with Computer Share. Tell them to pick whatever shares that you bought at whatever time, look at your prices you bought them at, and pick those shares to DRS. In that,
you can tell them last in, first out,
right.
or you can say 100 of my newest shares.
Yep.
And that should guarantee that they only get the stuff you most recently purchased. And like I said, it'll most likely change your cost balance if you've been averaging down like I have. Your cost average is going to go up, but it's going to put more of your holdings to be in that long-term cap gains category, which means when it does pop off and it does get above your original cost basis anyway, then you're going to still be making a ton of money.
I'm going to DRS the newest shares that I've just recently bought purposely because I want those to sit in there for a 12-month period. I'm probably never going to sell them. I'm going to forget about them most likely. But if everybody leaves this room, leaves this YouTube, goes out into the Twitter sphere, goes out into Reddit and says, hey, I'm going to put a tweet together with Jay, Brett, and Swing and Jen, and we'll all say, okay, this tweet looks good to explain what we're doing and why we're doing it now. We'll pump it out on the internet and we'll try to recruit as many people as we can to voluntarily DRS some shares so we can blow this thing out of the water. It's the perfect time because the community has become so much more educated and tired of doing the same old thing over and over again.
Yeah, there's a common question on it. I know you're just talking about the most current shares. A lot of people will ask if it resets the time frame, but it doesn't. So if you bought something back in December and you DRS now, you're still going to have a December time frame for a purchase, not when you DRS them. But that's kind of a common question.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good call out, Duckinator. Good call out.
Somebody just asked me specifically on YouTube, can you explain DRS?
Maybe focusing on DME and AMC here. You can take this information and run with it for any stock that you want to hold for a long time.
We can't hear you, Swing.
Yeah, there. Is that better?
Oh, yeah, way better.
Yeah, much better.
Okay, yeah. What I was saying is that we're talking about AMC and GME right now, or the other meme stocks, but the rule of thumb, far as if you want to buy and hold the stock for a really long time, going to the direct registration agent and buying it through there is not a bad way to go, because it doesn't. If you're going to be buying and holding it for a really long time, it doesn't really matter as far as you timing the perfect dip. As far as, looking on your app and trying to time it, you can send your money to Computer Share, have them buy it for you. You know that those shares were bought on a lit exchange, are legitimate shares. They aren't being borrowed. They're not being lent. There's no way for the market to take advantage of the situation. Those shares are now pulled. That's liquidity, and that's the name of this game. This whole thing is a giant liquidity game, and you pull that liquidity out of the market. Those shares are no longer there for anybody to deal with. That's going to make the market maker's job that much more difficult to play their game. So that's all that we can do. And
it's so easy to find it, you guys. It's literally on investor relations on the AMC site up on my screen. They got their phone number and their website one click away.
Hey, Spence, real quick. I just got a DM from somebody and they're asking, wouldn't AA have the right share count by the amount of the proxy votes that were sent out?
That assumes you can trust that who was sending out the proxy votes is actually sending out the real proxy votes to everybody, and that everybody got their votes.
I still have not got my proxy through Fidelity yet.
You have not?
Nope.
Wow.
See, I got my proxy like last week.
I did too, and I already voted, so.
Yep, same here. But that's my point, is like that assumes that the entity that's giving you the proxy, that, it's not, because essentially what happens is AMC goes to Computer Share and says, hey, pass out these materials. And, to the direct registered people, it just pops up in your Computer Share as a little thing to click and go and say, here's my votes. But if it's held at a broker, the broker is the one who gets the voting information because they're the ones who hold the blocks of shares in name in the DTCC. And then they distribute those through the proxy that they have set up to all of the shareholders. So it only appears to ComputerShare as it coming from your broker, and your broker holds, you know, 1 million or 10 million or whatever in name. And then they distribute out their votes based on what they have. Now, they can get away with this a lot of times when people don't vote because, you know, the vote participation rate may only be 20%. So if you have, you know, 20 or 40 or 60 or even 80% of the float, you know, shorted, if there's only 20% of the people, you know, voting, then you may not exceed the total number of shares. And therefore it wouldn't appear fraudulent. So it's important to, you know, not just vote, but it's important to have it in your name because they could just be assuming that people aren't going to vote, because that is very possible. And if they get more than they're supposed to, who knows whether they're discarding those or not, because it's not being held in your name. If it's being held in your name, your votes are counted and your votes are in your name. So it is your vote, it is your rights, and that's why DRS is so big to me.
And on top of that too, I mean, Broadridge is one of the largest proxy companies in the country. A lot of brokers use them, and they actually have a paid service to reconcile, quote unquote, reconcile votes for brokers, where if they happen to have more shares, technically, you know, more proxies going out than they have shares registered via the DTCC, they let the broker know so that they can do what they need to make those numbers match up. And that's a paid service offered by them. So, you know, why would you have a paid service if it wasn't a problem for brokers?
What's super bad is when I called Fidelity about it, the lady told me, well, it takes 40 to 60 days after issuance to deliver these, so we might not have even got it yet, which was a complete lie because there's other Fidelity members who have received their proxies. So
I totally get that. That sucks, Spence.
There's something going on funky with Fidelity. There's something going on with DRS. And there's definitely something going on that Adam Aaron and company know about because they've been talking about it lately. And he specifically mentioned dark pools, naked shorting, and synthetics in the last earnings call. I think they know exactly what's going on. They're just waiting for everybody to do their part. If you're willing to buy AMC shares at $60 to $35, $25, but you're not willing to take 3 days to DRS some of those shares to make them count, that to me is kind of wild. I really, really encourage everybody to jump on this. Let's log the damn float twice over and blow this thing out of the freaking water. What's up, Malcolm?
I just wanted to add, make sure to check your broker. I didn't realize, I found, because I hadn't received any information yet, that deep within like my broker's settings, there was an option on shareholder communication. And by default, it was set to the lowest level, which means you will only be sent legally required information. And there are other options like receive everything or receive just proxy information. So make sure check your broker if there's a setting on it. By default, mine was at the lowest setting, but I've changed it to, you know, receive everything. And I've been in contact and they said, if, you know, by May 15th, I don't receive my stuff, then to contact them again. But yeah, because by default, some brokers may just not want to bother you with the information because most people don't give a shit, but we give a shit. So make sure the settings turned on.
So Tammy F on YouTube just asked a question. She said, but if you DRS them, then you have to sell them through ComputerShare, don't you? And what is it like to sell out of ComputerShare? Extended hours trading, just as with other brokers? You're going to have a delay in selling these shares out of ComputerShare. But the point is to sacrifice some of your shares to prove we're over the float so that Adam Aaron and company can take action so we're not sitting here doing the same thing we've been doing for 12 months all over again. It's time to prove how many shares are out there.
It's also worth calling out that all of these things like after hours trading and early morning trading, they're all inventions of the last like 20 or 30 years. They were all designed to allow for additional, manipulation or additional, swapping back and forth from these big brokers because they're okay with that differential in the spread, and they're often going to be taking advantage of it. So you don't even really want to be trading in after hours anyway, because it's so incredibly volatile and the spreads are so wide that you end up getting screwed.
So
they want you to trade in those hours, but really it's very, very rare that you're going to actually get a benefit of being able to trade in after hours or in early morning hours.
So Tammy, you've heard it's likely to squeeze during pre-market or after hours because the volume was lower. It's not going to be a 10-minute squeeze. The last time we ran to 72, it was over a period of like 14 days. How long does it take for you to sell a share in DRS, you guys? Is it a 3-day period?
No,
no, it's
same
like,
day before 10 a.m.
Yep.
Eastern, I think.
Same day before 10 a.m. Eastern.
Correct. If you have a limit order in, which you can do, as soon as that's triggered and they can fill that order, they sell it. So, if it breaks the limit, like if you have a full lot, right? If you have 100 and you want to sell at a particular price, now granted, they have limits on how many you can sell. If your total goes above $1 million or $2 million, right? You can't exceed $2 million per order on ComputerShare, but that doesn't mean you can't put in 100 orders for one share at $1 million if that's what you wanted to set it to. I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying if you wanted $1 million per share, like the limit that you would be able to sell would be 2. And the lot size is typically 100. So if you want to sell 100 for, say, $1 million, you could put in a limit order for 100 shares for $1 million or $2 million, I think. And then per share price would be worked out as needed, but you would then have a full lot, and so as soon as the limit was triggered, it would automatically sell because it's a full lot of shares.
Yeah,
and that's how most shares are traded.
That's why we're talking 20%. You don't have to put your entire ownership in there. That way, when things do pop off, you still have 80% of your portfolio of AMC ready to go in your initial broker. But just remember, when you're talking about selling with ComputerShare and you're scared of squeeze scenarios, Robinhood took away the buy button last time. You cannot trust what your broker is going to end up doing when this squeezes when this actually squeezes. So having multiple platforms anyways, like Fidelity, Moomoo, and some in ComputerShare is a smart thing to do because you still have different access points to those shares so you don't miss out. Don't be stuck in one broker during a squeeze and they decide to take your sell button away. You know what I'm saying? So really, this is an advantage to people to be diversified over brokers.
If you're worried about the squeeze happening, you could just transfer 25 or 50 shares and then just start buying through ComputerShare. Because what they'll do is they'll buy in blocks towards the end of the day or mid-afternoon. And then you'll see they're buying it on the lit exchange. Or you'll see some huge candles when they start buying. That's what GameStop went through originally.
So there's
or could they just like open an account on ComputerShare and just if you don't feel comfortable transferring and just start buying shares on there.
You just buy. It's hard. You can't just say buy right now at this price. So you might get a different price, but at this point, what's the difference if you buy at 10 or 12 or 8? Right. That's the problem. But the good thing is they buy in. If they have 500 shares they need to buy, they'll buy it in one big block.
Hey Spence, real quick, Disc Spinner, he's had his hand up for a while.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Just sorry, man.
No worries. How you guys doing? Hey Spence, Jen. Got my 86 tendies today, so adding to the pile of AMC shares. I called today to DRS some shares with Fidelity, and I have to wait till tomorrow because a bunch of the HYMC that I bought yesterday settles tomorrow. So. Yep. I'll call him tomorrow. The guy, he kind of gave me a little bit of pushback and said, you can't trade on ComputerShare And he walked that back after I said, I don't think that's true. Said it was going to take a couple of weeks to settle and blah, blah, blah. So there's a little bit of pushback, but
the Fidelity employees are derpy as shit. I get a different answer from different employees every time I call.
Yep. And so I'll definitely be the 10,499th person tomorrow to DRS some shares. And after all the crap they've put us through, I think I'm going to up the 126 to 500 shares tomorrow. And a couple other things. So Jay Brett, it is not a taxable event when you transfer over, right?
In terms of transferring your shares from your personal portfolio over to ComputerShare, no.
Okay.
But in terms of your IRA, because of the way that the shares are held,
yep.
And the way that they end up getting held over a ComputerShare, it can. And there's a bunch of things that they'll tell you on the phone about it and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets into murky water. So if it's in an IRA, your process becomes a lot murkier. It becomes a lot harder to say, oh yeah, this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like you, Spence, I'm going to move over a lot of the shares that I bought in November. I bought in the 30s and 40s in that range. So, they'll be short term. And I'm like, you know what, I'll just move those over and hold on to those. But a couple other things. I talked to the guy about the proxy vote. If you have Fidelity and you hit the accounts and trade drop down, and then you go to statements, and then from there there's a drop down on the second line. I think it says proxy statements, and you click on that. It might be in there because he walked me through that, and sure as shit, all three of the accounts that I had were in there and ready to go.
So we'll check that this week because I was supposed to do that Monday and I forgot.
Yeah, do that because I never got emailed by Fidelity.
It'll take me just a few minutes. I've been there a number of times. I know which panel he's talking about. I'll find it and I'll post a tweet.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll just post a link.
All my shares were legit. They had them up, which I was surprised. I thought there was going to be some shenanigans, and then I also have a retirement account with a lot of shares in a separate brokerage account, and those were legit too. So getting all those votes in was good there. So let me check my notes and then I'll step down. So when I transfer them over, what do? I just go to ComputerShare and set up an account basically with ComputerShare, and then how do I know what my account number is or once it's set up so that I could just have access to that?
Well, they use it off of your name. So they go off of your social security number and your name info that you put in to identify yourself. And so when you transfer, and you need to make sure that your account in ComputerShare is set up to where the name is exactly as it is in your broker. That way they can appropriately associate them to each other. Otherwise, you then have to go in after you've DRS the shit. Like you set the account up and then you it creates a mess. It can be cleaned up, but essentially what I had to do, because I had my name info a little bit different in Fidelity than what my ComputerShare one was, because I've had the ComputerShare account, like I said, for over a decade. I had to go in and create a brand new account with the different names set up to match that of what Fidelity had when they sent it over. And that was how I solved that problem, right? And I believe you can do that after you actually DRS the shares directly. They'll still send you a statement and it'll give you your customer number and some other stuff, and you can go set up your ComputerShare account online, I believe. It looks like people have got hands up.
I just had one thing to add to that. I do mine through Wells Fargo, but when I opened it, if you're doing your first transfer, you don't put down an account number. What they'll do when they do that transfer is they'll create the account for you, and then you'll get a letter in the mail, and then you'll have to log in with that account number and set up your account. So you don't have to actually create that ComputerShare one first.
Yeah, the Fidelity information after the 3-day transfer period, you'll get exactly what he just said. That's literally what the lady, I called the day before the call just to make sure of a couple things, and that's exactly what they said. So
last thing, and I'm gonna step down. He did say that I could I could transfer over any lot of shares that I wanted to. So you could pick individual lots and move them over. So,
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Disc Spinner. That was great. Sugar!
Yo, man, what's going on?
What you up to?
Not much, brother. Just chilling, man, Just trying to go to work, make some more money, man. I need to make some more money, so I can buy some more.
I got you. I feel you there.
Yeah. Okay, so I got two questions, and, they're very blunt questions. I don't know if you want to I got two, that's not my questions. I got two DMs, but they're very blunt. The first one is, why do have to retail always make sacrifices? Isn't it not now the time that AMC board and CEO needs to buy some more shares like Ryan Cohen did it, and the guy owns both AMC and GM? That's the first question. So you want to answer that one?
Well, keep in mind that Adam Aaron has over 2 million shares that he can still decide to exercise and hold. So the reason you're seeing a lot of AMC share sales recently is because they're getting rid of Stephen A. Colanero. He's gone. He had to sell all his shares because he's leaving. He sold all his shares because he's leaving the company. We think he was probably a bad actor on the inside. Now, as far as Ryan Cohen buying shares and Adam Aaron buying shares, I can't tell you to buy more shares, so I can't tell Adam Aaron to buy more shares. That's an individual decision that he would have to make himself. I wish he would, but we can either wish for things we can't control or we can work towards things we can.
Thank you. Okay, so second question is, you said 188 million are owned by the institution, right?
Yep.
How did they find that? If they can find 188 million owned by the institution, and that we own over 90% of the float,
Yep.
How did they find that? How did they calculate that we own over 90% of the float?
There's multiple data sources that AMC has already that shows we own over 90%. It could be mostly DRS. But the problem is with them reporting that, they say over 90%. And then Fintel and these reporting agencies, you can't ever trust 100%. But it looks like across the board, the float is overbalance. We've been saying this for a year. Now, can they take legal action on that if it's not a direct registered document with the proper paperwork, the proper legal position? I don't know. That's a huge legal question to ask. Now, somebody did mention David Fraser on YouTube. He said we should petition Adam Aaron to see how many vote proxies were sent out. That's also another good idea. I think the easiest thing, though, right now is for everybody to try to DRS whatever amount of shares they can to just make a big statement in a boost in DRSing shares, which I think Adam Aaron originally was going to plan on doing something with Investor Connect that is either still happening or just didn't turn out the way he wanted it.
Thank you, Spence. Thank you so much for those. Now I got my question. Do you know anybody who wants to buy a testicle so I can buy more shares?
Yeah, I
No,
heard
I'm
Gasparino
serious,
needs a
man.
couple.
I heard they've been paying good money for that. I'm ready to. I gotta buy more shares, man.
Gasparino will probably buy him because he doesn't
That
have
was months ago. There was some research company that was like paying people. It was like 25 grand or 35 grand or something like that for a testicle.
Is it a vaccinated testicle?
I don't think they cared if it was a vaccinated testicle or a non-vaccinated testicle.
Hey, Shook, you sell one and I'll sell your other one.
Is it a non-binary testicle?
I gotta keep one, man.
Why? Don't be selfish.
Ain't gonna be no good after if I give both of them away.
This is all about the movement.
Don't you already have some kids though? Isn't that time to say it's good enough?
So you saying just take one for the team, huh?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it's an option. And then if you went with the steel ones, you could run around saying balls of steel and troll the hell out of everybody all the time.
you know what? After squeeze, I'm gonna have it all made of gold, man. You just wait and watch.
Hycroft
wait
gold,
and watch.
baby.
Yeah, buddy.
Yo, Elon Musk.
They're gonna be like gold member in Austin Powers gold member.
Reuters putting out that article yesterday. You know, I haven't been a big proponent of pushing the lithium theory on Hycroft because I've been deep in the silver and gold DD, right? But the Thacker mine lithium deposit, literally there's a basin drain off the mountain right down past Hycroft towards the Black Rock Desert. And Tesla Nevada Gigafactory is only 3 hours away from the Hycroft mine. So the more and more I see about Elon talking about buying a mine and that Tesla's up for it, I don't know, man. This whole thing with AMC being profitable by Q4, credit cards, popcorn, and crypto, and then Diane Garrett coming out and saying we will be full-scale commercial operations by 2023. That is a lot of catalyst all in one. That's like a catalyst nuclear bomb. So we'll see if this Elon thing comes to fruition. And if it does, Tara, if you can hear me, and Jen too, good job on the push on that. And I will honestly and proudly say that you are 100% right, and I completely missed all the DD on that. So I can't wait for that day.
Sorry, I was just posting something on for those who are on Fidelity who want to find their AMC or whatever proxy materials and vote.
Yep.
I just pinned it to the top. Go to account and trade portfolio.
I did as well.
Okay.
I pinned it earlier.
Okay. Cool.
I tagged you in my tweet as well, Jen.
I didn't even see it. So
Yeah,
sorry.
I tagged you and Spencer in my tweet
When was this? Sorry.
like 5 minutes ago.
Fuck.
I don't know. It's up in the Nest area. It's the
Yeah,
only
I
thing
was
of
like,
shares.
sorry, I was typing up and at the time, and that's probably why I didn't see it.
Nah, that's all
I
good.
love when they're
Now
like,
we've got
Jen,
two references.
All right.
Jen, and nobody answers, and they're like, "Oh, she's definitely tweeting right now," and
Yeah,
they're
I'm
trying to
tweeting
tweet,
something.
just going, "Shut the fuck up."
Just wait, damn it. It's the middle of a thought.
What's up, Justin?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you, Spence. What's up, Jen? Hey, just real quick, I'm only one person in this movement, but I think that this is important, is that to use your platforms, whatever it is, whether you got 10 followers or 50 or 100, to really talk about DRS. I was silent on it, for 8 months, and I just decided last week, I said, fuck this. I am not going to be a victim of, broker fuckery. So, and I hope not either. And that was my biggest really kind of determining factor in doing it. And I DRS'd all my GME shares last week. I get a letter from GME with the computer share logo on there as well. And then I got a second letter from Computer Share. It's got your account number in it. I'm the most computer illiterate person. Go into Computer Share, create the account. You'll get the 2 letters. Once you get that second letter from Computer Share, you just put that code in and boom, it's there. So I'm going to buy all my shares directly through them from now on. I contacted Weeble today, who I was with. I'm going with all my AMC shares. I really, at this point, I don't give a shit. I know people do, and there's obvious reasons for this, but I don't give a shit about last and first out at this point, because the conviction that I've got for both of these, I don't care. So I know that there's something to that, but that's just my personal feelings. But use your platforms, get that out. GME talks about DRS. Okay, remember that. They do it at the end of their earnings call. They're doing this for a reason. Mm-hmm. And Adam Aaron is now, I know he hasn't talked about DRS directly, but there's go to, I think it was Investor Connect. You can actually see on there, they talk about air and how many people are registered with it. There's a reason for all of this, guys. So everyone's got their own feelings, but in terms of the price right now, I don't give a shit. I don't care if it goes to $4 or $5. And I know probably many people are in the same boat. We'll just continue to buy more because we know what we have, but I do not trust the brokers for a second. When this pops off and it gets absolutely out of fucking control, they're going to do something. Did it last time, okay, without anybody covering, you guarantee they're going to do it again. Don't get caught up in that. That's all I got.
This community is 100 times smarter than it was last year at this time when people saw 72, and I don't care what anybody says, people fucking sold. We know better now. And that was not a squeeze by any means. This is it sounds like across the board, a lot of people feel like it's the proper time for DRS. More than likely because more people are motivated now more than ever. With all the hype in the movies, the big catalyst, the GameStop catalyst, and the low share price, man. You're buying shares at under $10 a share now. Well, not anymore. It went up in after hours. But think about that. I want to give everybody some motivation from 70 to say $20. If you bought through there, you are a fucking badass. Hands down. You're not stupid. You're just awesome. Here's why. During that time frame, these hedge funds and market makers were digging a hole day after day after day, failure to deliver after failure to deliver, and short after short. We buying those shares for a full year and now slamming the buy button until it's stuck down through the floor this week have created such a massive scenario, all as individual retail investors, mind you. We're not colluding. This thing is huge, man.
Can I say something last real quick, and then I'll drop down.
Go for it.
But remember this: DRS is like a bus. Okay, there are so many fucking seats on the bus. Okay, I've got mine. Get yours, because when it fills up, you're going to be stuck with a broker holding God knows what, and you don't know what they're going to do.
So David Frazier on YouTube also again has a comment saying the chairman of the board can request the proxy vote count, the CEO cannot. So we need to petition Adam Aaron for a proxy vote count. I don't know who would be able to do it because he is the chairman of the board and the CEO at the same time. So that's interesting. But
I think because he's the chairman, he would be the one to do it.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Because
we should petition for that.
Because when you hold both positions, you hold both sets of power, which is why typically a lot of companies don't like to have both chairman and CEO as the same person.
Yep.
But I think part of that, I mean, well, I don't want to discourage any type of action whatsoever. Any type of action is a good action, but at the end of the day, the only 100% bulletproof, because there's no third party really involved, is the direct registration process, which is why it's the bullet. Because once all of the shares are in ComputerShare and they say, hey, we have X amount of shareholders that own 516 million shares, that's it. There's no arguing that. There's no fuckery from Schwab or Fidelity or TD Ameritrade or Webull or Revolut and all the numerous brokers that there are internationally as well.
Guys, when they show that 500,000 people own the entire float, it's going to be the biggest story in Wall Street history. We can prove this in a matter of months if everybody leaves this room motivated to encourage DRSing. Don't attack anybody that doesn't want to do it, but just say, if we DRS 100 shares a pop or more in the next 6 months, we can make a big difference in the amount of ammunition that Adam Aaron has to go to fight this thing. And he said, we will pounce when the time is right. They're literally waiting for us to log the float. It's so simple. Now everybody's educated on it. If people come in and say, well, I don't want to do that because Citadel owns ComputerShare and blah, blah, blah. Citadel owns the entire stock market. Every share that you have right now is being handled in some way or form by Citadel. So it doesn't matter. But ComputerShare has a legal obligation to log these shares properly and provide the data to AMC. And if they don't, we can sue the living shit out of them. Biggest class action lawsuit in history. They're not going to risk that. So in that, I want to keep the call consolidated down to the message purpose and the YouTube consolidated down to the message purpose, which is AMC, 4 million investors, all logging 100 shares DRS, will prove that there are over, at minimum, 73.6 million shares synthetic. That is a very conservative number. There's probably hundreds of millions, if not billions. So if everybody just takes a little bit of incentive, if you have Fidelity, all you have to do is make sure all your cash and trades are cleared and say, I want to transfer 100 shares or 50 shares or 500 shares. I want to transfer them to Computer Share to DRS them. They'll do it. It takes 3 trading days. You'll get information back from Computer Share in the mail or via email. You can go log into your account and see that you have real shares of AMC. It is so simple to do. Don't listen to the FUD. If you choose to do this, rock on. We can blow this thing out of the water. So now on that, since we've recovered it so many times, J. Brett, Swing, Justin, Disc Spinner, Jen, thank you all, Sugar, for coming in with questions, with the panel, with the information and the knowledge to tell everybody. So if anybody has closing statements, please go ahead.
Okay, can I go? Okay, guys, first of all, we didn't come this far just to come this far. We all know what we hold and why we hold. And this would not have been possible without all of us, whether you own any amount of shares. It's all possible because we are all in this together. And we all win when all of us win. Nobody alone can win this. So we got this far because of all of us together. It's not one person's effort. And, if we put a little bit more effort, like Spence is saying with DRS shares, I think we are very close. Just hold on, hang on, lean on to each other, lift up each other when you see somebody down. And, together we are strong and together we will win. Much love to all of you guys.
Absolutely. And I want to reiterate, guys, No Option May was a huge success. It consolidated a lot of people in this movement to an idea that fit with everybody, that we proved via the options chain was making an impact. Because I'm telling you right now, somebody in the institutions got eaten alive today when they reorganized those puts. That was a lot of puts moved from one strike to another. And Jay Brett, thank you for coming in last week and saying, hey man, you should really start speaking more on adding puts into the Hoyles method, which I was doing, but I didn't come out with specifically because I didn't want to overcomplicate it. But it made a big difference this week when the calls options were low, but the puts were high. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Jen, you got any thing you want to close out with?
AMC the moon.
Yeah.
Let's fucking go, baby. Let's go, baby.
Go
Keep buying and huddling. Keep
go
buying
see
and huddling.
Doctor Strange.
Yes. I went for the
Go.
second time and saw it in 3D, and it was definitely a movie meant to be seen in 3D.
Oh man, 3D. That always makes my head hurt when I watch movies in 3D.
Well,
I love
go
them.
watch
I
it
think
in
they're
digital, you
great, but I'm just.
SDGs.
I can't help it if I get dizzy or I get headaches when I watch it in 3D.
The trick is to wear a hat and sit closer to the screen.
Probably not.
Maybe I'll have to try that.
IMAX 3D is IMAX 3D compared to regular 3D in a digital or a real 3D is way better.
Yeah, I believe that. IMAX has always been, kind of a step above the other stuff. I remember when IMAX first came out, I think it was in the 90s. It was the new hot thing. But yeah. Oh man. I keep watching all this after hours action of crypto and what that's going to mean for the markets tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's getting nasty. It's getting late January again over here. Because watching, so I don't want to get us off topic of AMC, but I think that this sell-off in crypto is indicative of what's going to be happening soon with the rest of the markets, which I think is going to be we'll start to see that turnaround in AMC. Because
Bitcoin went under 30 again today.
Yep, it's at 28.3, and I have a support line drawn at 27.3. And if it drops below that, I don't know how far that thing's going to dip. I think we're going to see it test 20. I think I've said that before to people
Here's the
because we didn't have a strong test. But
is last year this time, Bitcoin was in the gutter right before AMC went through the roof.
Yep, I think that was a good call out. And the same thing is going on here with Ethereum too. Ethereum's about to test 2,000. And like I said, if these things like really dip hard, either we're going to see some like massive additional shorting on AMC and GameStop, or we might see a run. But we're going to see more market downside, like general broad market downside because of all this sell-off, because this is panicking and getting out of all of those risk assets. It's like the one thing that the media has actually been saying correctly today, at least when I was watching Bloomberg, is that like risk assets are off.
Yep.
And so, you know, these sell-offs are happening, not just like we're seeing the sell-off happening with AMC and GME, yes, but we're seeing it happen broadly across the markets. If you look at how bad SPY was down, SPY is now trading at 392 at the end of today. The next real support level, like we're at that that support level, but the next real support level comes in at like 385. And then below that is like right around 380. And it just will start ratcheting down from there until like, I want to say your last real clear one is like at 385 where you could hit support before it like really dips down to like the late 2020 levels at like 350. So I mean, like we've got like a $30 dip in the SPY that's going to come in around between 385 and like 350.
It's them running
just
for
gonna,
the door, man.
Exactly. It's them running for the door. They're trying to get out of everything they can to try and stay one day longer being open.
And the only
at this
parachute
point.
is Jim Cramer's underpants. It's whitey. It's really saggy whitey tighties with holes in them. It's so gross. Let me read these YouTube comments real quick. There's some good ones coming in. Hayden J at Real Estate, or Hayden J Real Estate. It's been on YouTube for a while. Been following me. I opened an account with ComputerShare and DRS 100 shares today. Easy peasy. Freaking rock on, dude. Awesome. David Frazier, I will DRS 1,000 shares tomorrow. I believe we still need to push the proxy vote count for Adam as well. Absolutely. Ciano Sullivan, who was banned on Twitter, one of our normals that was banned on Twitter on YouTube. Stay zen, bitches. So, you guys, we're making an impact every time we do this, and I know you guys are going out and trending these topics. So before we close, it'd be cool if we could come up with a good hashtag for this DRS push, specifically for AMC. GME is already kind of doing it, and if AMC picks up with the amount of people we have in the movement, it's just going to help GME anyways. So
yeah, I was gonna say GME has been big on this for like a year now.
Yep.
And they got some decent traction starting last fall. The information's been out there for a while. Dr. Trimbuth has been talking about this for over a year. I'm sure she's, turning blue in the face talking about it at this point.
Yep.
But the information has been out there for a year. The GME community has been on it. I think if we can get the AMC community just as on board, then we see synergy across both of them, like that there will be additional people DRSing on both sides, because I think that I'm pretty sure that GME will make fun of us for doing it and being late and being like, look at them again. But I think that's mostly the elitists or the shills that are trying to push people away. So, just bear in mind, there are going to be people who are going to be like, oh, look at them, late to the party, whatever. Just don't pay any attention to it. Do what you need to do.
So how about hashtag AMC DRS the float? I wish it sounded cooler.
Operation DRS.
Ooh.
Yeah, and for people that think that that we're asking to move mountains, like in some ways this is it is a big task. I don't want to diminish that, but I did the math, and like in one quarter, on average, if you look at like trading days, actually it's probably even more than that because I just assumed 5 days, and there are those days where the market's not open. So on average, it was something like 44,000 shares were direct registered for GME every single trading day of Q1 for the between the Q4 and the Q1 report for GME. That's pretty freaking amazing. I mean, it's enough that ComputerShare in one of their Ask Me Anythings said that they actually have a team of people that are just GME direct registration people. They had to hire people just to deal with the onslaught of people doing it. And that's the power of retail. That's the power of the movement.
Absolutely. I love the Operation DRS. So I put AMC, hashtag AMC, Operation DRS, hashtag log the float. I think will absolutely make a big movement. I'm going to form this tweet. I'm going to DM it to Jen Sweeney and Jay Brett to let them see how the step process should be worded. And then I'm going to blast it out. And I hope everybody retweets it and blasts it out to the community, man. And if anybody has any questions, point them to the space call or point them to the YouTube so they can go back over this information. And on that, for the consolidation purposes of people rewatching, I'm going to end this. Everybody, thank you for coming. I love the freaking energy today, even though we're at $10, because I think we all feel in our plums, our plum deep down in my plums, that this thing is about to blow up worldwide, man. So y'all have a good day. Go join the other calls and spread the word, man.
Sounds good. Let's go, baby.
AMC to the fucking moon.
See you guys.
Let's go. Bye, guys.
Everybody on YouTube, thank you so much for coming. Please spread the word, share the video, share the knowledge. We're gonna get this hashtag going. Please rock it out on Twitter, get it trending, slam it on Reddit, slam it on YouTube, everything. Let's log the float so these mother effers quit cheating us out of what is rightfully ours and we can protect the AMC company. Please do this all individually on your own accord. I am not telling you to do anything specifically. Yes, Hayden J, real estate. Froggy Styles has a room open right now on Twitter. Please go visit it. Talk about the. He's probably talking about it right now. They usually jump in my calls here and there anyways. So go let Froggy Styles know what you guys are thinking, man. I appreciate you all. I can't believe how the channel has grown. This channel will always stay free. I will never take a dime from anybody. If anybody DMs you with anything saying I'm taking donations, I am not. No donations, no super chats, no monetary money from advertisements or anything. Thank you all for coming. Y'all have a good day. Froggy.